The German command agrees to the surrender of all German armed forces in Holland, in northwest Germany, including the Frisian Islands and Heligoland and all other islands.
Just a week later, the Third Reich declared total surrender to the Allies, finally ending World War II. The fate of the defeated was tragic. The country was divided into 4 areas. 2 ideologies by the 4 big powers. The Soviet Union had no sympathy for the Germans. They had suffered greatly because of the war, and was still resentful of Hitler's betrayal. More than 12 million people were looted of their homes, goods, food, and even clothes, and were put on a starvation-level diet. Not only that, something even more inhuman occurred during the period. The Red Army soldiers raped thousands of innocent German women, including young girls that hadn't even reached puberty, and elderly women, creating hundreds of the so-called lost Red Army children.
The fear always remains in your body, and you never get rid of it. The pain lessens over time, but the fear is always there. In West Germany, the topic was taboo because the Germans were seen as guilty for the war. And in Soviet-occupied East Germany, people weren't allowed to talk about the abuse committed by the Soviet soldiers.
It was days of horror and destruction for the Germans. In 1949, the German Democratic Republic was established by the Soviet Union.
After World War II, the world split into 2 military blocs, the Warsaw Pact and NATO.
Soon it became a member of the Warsaw Pact. The Soviet-led political military alliance in Eastern Europe, establishing itself as one of the most influential communist nations in Eastern Europe. Despite the claims of Wilhelm Pieck, the first leader of Eastern Germany that defined East Germany as a republic of workers and peasants, the truth was far from this. When compared with the capitalist West Germany, the situation of the communist Germany was quite embarrassing. The real GDR was no heaven. It was a Stalinist police state controlled by the fearful secret police, the Stasi, which was an organization made by the East German communist leaders to ensure that the people would become and remain submissive to them. The Stasi thought itself as the shield and sword of the Communist Party, and put no limits and chains when it came to protecting the party and the state. Schools, universities, churches, hospitals, bathrooms, there was nowhere that was left alone by the Stasi. They were like a giant octopus whose tentacles probe every aspect of life. The government felt this as a necessary means to keep the people in order.
Sie wurden vernichtet und in Brand gesteckt.
They had gone through the East Berlin Workers' Riot of 1953, in which discontent workers of East Berlin and other East German cities had a national uprising. The government had no intention of going through that kind of incident again. They were badly shaken.
100.000 Demonstranten stehen unter dem Feuer der Maschinengewehre.
The people's problem was that they were discontent with the communist, state-controlled economic system of the German Democratic Republic.
Es herrscht Ausnahmezustand in Ost-Berlin.
They had clearly witnessed West Germany's economic miracle and started to envy the rising living standards in West Germany.
In der Zeit vor dem Deutschlandtreffen rüstete sich die Jugend, um durch diese Stadt mit den Fahnen der Arbeit und des Friedens zu ziehen.
The government's oppressive and flexible response further added to the people's grievances too. And it led more than 3 million East German people to flee from the Soviet communist side of the country to the free liberal west side of the country, which of course frustrated the government even more. Finally, Walter Ulbricht, East Germany's state leader, made a major decision: to build a wall that will trap the East Germans inside the Soviet Empire, away from any Western influence. During the night of August 13, 1961, East German troops began building the Berlin Wall. Germany became the center of the conflict between the two ideologies during the Cold War, with the Berlin Wall standing upright as the ugly symbol of the tensions that the world faced during the period. Over 1,000 Germans were killed trying to escape over the wall. The guards fired their guns to anyone trying to harass the wall, and less than 5,000 people succeeded in crossing it. The rest of the citizens were stuck with the workers' paradise, with no choice but to obey the government. East Germany's economy greatly grew to the point that they started to be called the Little Wonder by the communists. But wonder or not, it wasn't enough for the people. The success and prosperity of their next-door neighbor was obvious, and the people were unsatisfied with their contrasting lackluster economic standards.
Jeans zu tragen war was Besonderes. Wer also eine Jeanshose anhat, auf den wurde natürlich etwas mehr geschaut in der Zeit, und das war also, das waren ja junge Leute, das war natürlich was, und da konnte man natürlich damit ein bisschen angeben und so.
Es gibt ja so einen schönen Spruch, dass es 4 Feinde gab für die DDR. vor allen Dingen für den energetischen Teil, für die Energiewirtschaft und den Bergbau. Das war Frühling, Sommer, Herbst und Winter.
Haben mich wieder von der Arbeit geholt, musste zur Parteikontrollkommission nach Hettstedt, schweres Verhör mit Agitationssekretär Lampe, SED-Chef Warenbrett und Ratsvorsitzender Radestock. Wollten mich aus der Partei schmeißen, habe ihnen gesagt, ich bin freiwillig rein und gehe auch freiwillig wieder raus, dieser Armleuchter.
The GDR experienced a leak in their plan when Hungary removed its border restrictions in August 1989. Because it was free to travel between the same communist countries, the people simply crossed the green border of Hungary to Austria and finally to West Germany. The Berlin Wall became useless.
Ich laufe dann da durch.
I crossed through a hole and there was this Austrian who said, "Welcome to freedom," holding a piece of barbed wire like a rose. I couldn't believe it. In my mind, I was expecting a first wall, then a second wall, a third one like here. But he said, "You're already in Austria." I told him, "No way."
A month later, on November 9, 1989, the Berlin Wall fell, resulting in emotional scenes as hundreds of thousands of East Germans crossed into West Germany for the first time.
Wir gehen einen ganz wesentlichen Schritt weiter. Ich habe Ministerpräsident Modrow und seinen Regierungsmitgliedern das Angebot unterbreitet, sofortige Verhandlungen zur Schaffung einer Währungsunion und Wirtschaftsgemeinschaft aufzunehmen.
Soon the East German government fell apart altogether, and after some negotiations, the German reunification was agreed upon both the German people and the foreign victory powers. Finally, on October 10, 1990, the two German countries are officially reunited together after more than 40 years.
Wir wollen in einem vereinten Europa dem Frieden der Welt dienen.
To this day, there are still many differences that remain between the former East Germany and West Germany, in lifestyle, wealth, and political beliefs, but the entire country has worked hard to solve the problems, and the government has developed significantly, and is continuing to develop into a better, more democratic, free society.